Okay, so let's talk about summary writing. Okay, because I think we didn't really cover much on that. But summary writing, of course, is a skill to have. Definitely, because you will still be doing it for O levels. Okay, so in terms of summary writing, right, I think the first thing to take note of would be the length. Bear in mind that your teachers they really do count your words. If you have more than 80 words, right, they will just cancel out all the information after 80 words. So if you have any additional points that goes beyond the 80 words, they will just not count it into content points. Okay. So word count is a must take note of kind of thing. In terms of content and language, right? Um, we are talking about the relevance of the answer to the question. If the question asks for reasons, please do not give effects. Okay, so I think first thing, one of the main strategy is to identify what they want you to summarize. If they want you to summarize reasons, then you're not supposed to give like consequences and the effects that cause the consequences, right? If they ask you for events, like what happened, right? Summarize what happened, then do not give description and also do not give examples as well. Sometimes actually for summary, examples are usually not necessary. Okay. Then of course, you're supposed to paraphrase your answers and not copy them wholesale. Right. I think that one you know. The opening line is to help you to get started on your answer. Yeah. Okay, so what should you do then? You should underline the keywords in the question, get details from the passage that answers the question. Okay. Uh, Usually I'll get my students to go back to the passage, highlight and number the points 1 to 8. If you have fewer than 8 points, you probably have to go back to the passage to look out for the points that you have missed. Okay. But sometimes if you have sometimes if you have more than 10 points, that's fine as well. Okay. Because if you have more than 10 points, then that basically tells you that you have to oh, how come Zojun has left? Is it because okay, maybe he'll come back in a while. Let's see. Okay, so the points that you have missed, so strike out repeated points if you have same idea. Sometimes if you have more than 8 points, it's fine also. You can basically just um, you know, combine them because sometimes if you think that you've gotten 9 or 10 points, right, actually, in fact, maybe some of the points are repeated. So they're not counted as 2 points. They're just counted as 1 point. Okay. So I think I would say that if you can fit all the extra points in 80 word count, then I think that's fine. Okay. Rephrase content words for each point, leave technical words as they are, right? Strike out the repeated points, same ideas in different words. Go back to the passage to look out for the points you may have missed, yeah? Okay, next one. The do's and don'ts, okay? Do read the summary task to find out the requirement. Do not repeat an idea. I think we spoke about this just now. You have to understand the question very well. Next one, do select parts that fulfill the requirement and notate the important points. The don't is, I think I said that just now as well, do not give examples because actually examples are not really required for your summary writing. Okay, number these points, do not exceed the word limit. We talked about that as well. Write these points in your own words. Okay, Tojin is coming back in. I think there's something wrong with his connection. Okay, don't list the main ideas randomly, right? And lastly, do shape your notes into sentences that flow well. The don't would be do not mention minor details and technical terms. Okay, later on when we do a practice, you will know what I mean, right? But usually we do not put in the minor details or even the technical terms, not required. Yeah. Okay. I think there are just the two of you, so I do need you to take turns to read. Okay, so can Caitlin read first? You guys will just take turns to read one paragraph each, okay? Caitlin?
Pediatricians, parents, and policymakers alike are concerned about high and rising rates of obesity among US children and are now recognizing the need for action. Over the past 3 decades, the share of children who are overweight has increased from 15% in the 1970s to nearly double today, while the share of children who are obese has tripled from 5 to 15%.
Okay, good. Okay, next question. Sorry, next paragraph, Jun. Oh, he left. Again, is it his connection? Okay, never mind. I'll read this paragraph in place of him. Then later when he comes back, we get him to read. Okay. Now, despite all the public attention and concern, policymakers are uncertain about how best to combat childhood obesity. Researchers have identified many possible causes of the epidemic, but the research based on how to prevent obesity is still limited, making it difficult to decide how best to proceed. With state and federal budgets already strained, it is important to develop programs and policies that are effective and can be implemented at a reasonable cost. Okay, Kevin, the next paragraph, please.
Increases in childhood obesity pose a serious health threat, with today's obese children falling victim to diseases that once afflicted only adults. Obesity is not only taking a toll on their overall health, but also threatening ultimately to shorten their lifespan. The increase in obesity is also an economic issue.
Okay. Hmm. I'll continue, please. I think there's the next part to this. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Estimates of the cost of treating obese children are relatively small, but rising rapidly. Preventing obesity in childhood must be the centerpiece of plans to reduce both the health and economic costs of obesity.
Good. Okay. Next paragraph. The past 30 years have seen many dramatic changes in the ways Americans work, live, and eat. Researchers are now tracing today's obesity problem back to many of those changes. Presented with many possible causes of obesity and only limited evidence about what works to combat childhood obesity, policymakers and practitioners should focus attention on programs and policies that are most likely to be effective. Okay, next one. Caitlin?
Obesity prevention and intervention programs should involve both children and parents. Typically conducted within schools, childcare centers, and after-school programs, these interventions work with both children and their parents. Since most meals are taken at home, parents must take action and be taught about nutrition and promote increased physical activity for their children. Although more work is needed to tailor these programs to children of varying ages and demographic groups, evidence indicates that such programs can be effective. However, parents alone cannot tackle this challenging issue. Children are also strongly influenced by marketing in the media, and educational institutions have a role to play to instill good eating habits.
Okay. Although there are standards enforced for the nutritional content of food in the National School Lunch Program, schools are also allowed to serve non-nutritious food such as cookies, potato chips, and sodas. Many school districts have chosen to impose stronger requirements to limit unhealthy foods. In addition, schools should strengthen physical education requirements to increase the amount of time students spend in PE classes and most importantly, the amount of moderate or vigorous activity they engage in during PE classes. Okay, 10.
Children view an average of 40,000 television ads a year, often featuring candy, sugared cereal, and fast food. Children find advertisements persuasive and in turn, they influence their parents' food purchases.
Good. Okay, continue.
The media could reduce advertising time for non-nutritious food aimed at children. A more aggressive strategy would be an outright ban on ads for food that are high in sugar, fat, and calories during children's programming, just as the government has banned all tobacco ads on television and radio.
Okay, right. Okay. Medical schools and pediatric residency programs need to better train physicians in how to screen for and prevent obesity. Doctors must be reimbursed by insurance programs for delivering obesity-related care. Steps should be taken to require public and private health insurance for children to recognize obesity as an illness and to allow it to be treated and covered accordingly. Okay, next one, last one.
These policy recommendations are cautious, based on strategies that show promise in reducing obesity in the short term. But they are simply the first steps in what is likely to be a long battle to reverse obesity trends. Other promising policies and programs include improving access to healthful food for low-income families and requiring restaurants to provide more nutrition information. Working on this problem will take time, attention, and funding, but it's an essential step in reducing childhood obesity.
Good, thank you so much. Okay, now how has the number of children who are overweight changed from the past decades according to paragraph 1? So how have they changed? This is paragraph 1, right? In terms of numbers, right? How has the number? Because the question, okay, usually for comprehension questions, we will have to identify some of the key phrases. How is your instructional verb? How has it changed, right? And then, of course, we also need to know, I'll use another color for that. We also need to know the reference words, which is paragraph 1. So we have to find our answers from paragraph 1. And the last piece of important information would be any keywords or key phrases. So in this case, it's the number of children who are overweight. Okay, identify the instructional verb. Basically, what is their instruction? How are you supposed to answer it? What type of question is that, right? Secondly, find the reference words, which is which paragraph should we refer to? And lastly, the key phrase in your question. So in the 1970s, you realize it was from the 15% to nearly double, and that's overweight. Okay. The next one is obese. Obese and overweight are actually different. You might think that they are the same, but actually obese means that it is severely overweight. That means you are not just overweight, but you're overweight by a lot. Okay. So in this case, in the 1970s, it's about 15% of children. And now it says that it has nearly doubled, right? Okay, so this question is actually excuse me, I'm having a bit of a sore throat. So this question is actually a literal question. You can find the answer from the text itself. Not too difficult, right? Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. What does epidemic in paragraph 2 refer to? So there is a term. Okay, what does the word epidemic refer to?